Hi guys, it's Amanda and today I'll be doing my top 5 or so fairy tale companion novels. I decided to do this because a few days ago the sequel to Enchanted by Alethea Contis Hero came out, and because I've been dying for this book to come out for so long, I thought it would be good to do something to celebrate the fact that it's finally out. Unfortunately I can't do a review of it because despite the fact that I pre-ordered it, my copy has not arrived yet and will not arrive for about 2 weeks. So you're going to have to wait for that. Although I thought I'd go down the fairy tale-esque path and talk about some of my favourite fairy tale books. Now these aren't going to be any retellings because I am planning to do a video on that later. However, I feel that sometimes these books which are not quite retellings get overlooked. So in no particular order, these are going to be my top 5. We may as well start with Enchanted by Alethea Contis. This is the first book in the Woodcutter Sisters trilogy. The second one, of course, is Hero, and the third one's Beloved. I really enjoyed this book. It's mostly a retelling of The Frog Prince, but it does include all these other elements which are not part of the traditional story and are part of other fairy tales. So I consider this one a fairy tale mashup. It contains elements from Cinderella, The Frog Prince, various other lesser known tales, which I can't remember quite how many of them there are in here because I haven't read this for a year because I'm going to be rereading it when I finally get my hands on Hero. This list would never have been complete if I hadn't chosen a book from this author. She is one of my contenders for Queen of Fairy Tales, and that would be Alex Flynn's Cloaked. I thought this was really enjoyable. Unlike what I thought when I first bought this book, it's not a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, but this one also contains all these other lesser known fairy tales, and the cloak that they talk about is also a fairy tale item, and it was one of the first that I'd read that was sort of this idea of merging all these fairy tales into one story, and so I really enjoyed it. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. Because I've been raving about this book series, I'm just going to get this one out of the way now. The next book on this list is Chris Colfer's The Land of Stories series. I've chosen the first book, The Wishing Spell, because you should read this one first. I really enjoy how he merges fairy tales in this tale, but it's also about what happens afterwards. And because of that, it was very much different to other stories because everyone has their own takes on what happens next, whereas there's so many ways that you can retell how Cinderella went to the ball and met her Prince Charming and lived happily ever after. The living happily ever after is always the bit that I was interested in, and this book sort of gives you a bit of an idea about what the happily ever after of all these fairy tales was actually about, but also he gives fairy tales context, which I found really interesting. I will be posting a review of this very soon. I've tried like 3 or 4 times to film it, and every time I just come out raving about it and not actually saying anything insightful other than, oh my god, isn't it amazing? So I will be trying to get a better review of this up soon. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars because it is amazing and you should read it. While we're looking at children's books, I'm going to go with the book that I've had for the longest on this list, and that is The Fairytale Detectives, which is the first book in the Sisters Grimm series. I've finally got all the books for this series and I'm going to finish reading them probably this year. If not, then I'll do it next year. The story follows Sabrina and Daphne when they go to live with their grandmother in Fairyport Landing and discover that they're descendants of the Brothers Grimm. Not only that, but they find out that the Brothers Grimm weren't storytellers, they were historians, and that all the fairy tale characters actually exist. More than that, all the fairy tale characters hate the Grimm family. So I find this a really enjoyable children's book, and it does, throughout the series it does get a little bit dull, but then it picks right back up, and so I'm really excited to find out how it ends because they've finally released the last book. Jeanette Rallison's My Fair Godmother. I thought this was really clever because it was told through the perspective of a report submitted by the Fair Godmother, Chrysanthemum Everstar, also known as Chrissy, and through a memoir elf's telling of what was happening when he's placed inside the mind of a teenage girl. The story is about when the Fair Godmother Chrissy offers 3 wishes to Savannah, who has just lost her boyfriend to her sister, and so she wishes for Prince Charming. It doesn't quite work out the way she expects. The last book on this list is very different, as much as you don't meet any fairy tale characters. and you don't go into the fairy tale world. Instead, this book focuses on the fairy tale items, and I thought it was really good seeing how these items could be applied into today's society. The Grimm Legacy by Polly Shellman. I found this really enjoyable. I found the idea of a library which contained items from fairy tales, among other things, was very interesting, and looking at how these items are perceived in today's society was quite funny, especially when you had like the magic items, which were basically the same as what we've got with technology now, but I found they were still much cooler because they were still magic. I think it was really enjoyable, and although I didn't like the companion novel quite so much, it was still a really enjoyable read. And if you really like fairy tales, I'd suggest checking this out. Again, you can, because it's looking at items, you've got references to so many fairy tales, and a lot of them are ones that you may not have heard of, and so you should really give this book a go if you're into fairy tales. Don't forget, my giveaway ends tomorrow, so make sure you get your entries in. Comment down below what your favourite fairy tale is, and if you've commented on my giveaway video and you comment here, this will count as another entry into the giveaway. So last 24 hours I'm going to give you all the chances you can get to win this book, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye guys!